What's what?
Dick.
It's tobacco, yeah. So, all right, I know tobacco's disgusting. Yeah, I'm not here to change your mind on that. I think it's disgusting too. But I was trying to think of something to talk about that's like maybe looked at a negative aspect. I'm not here to sway anyone. I just want to give facts on it. It's not persuasive, just informative. So I chose this. So I'm gonna like give a basis on it first off, then maybe look at how the commercial product came to be about, and then we're gonna look at how the government came in and put the hammer down basically on it. But first, let's take a look at where it came from. First off, it's been around forever. It was tracked all the way back to 1 BC, according to Dayton University, when Native Americans were using it all over South America and North America. And they used it for medicinal purposes as well as healing purposes because they thought it was the cure-all. They would put it in their wounds. They would use it as a painkiller. They thought it would cure everything. Maybe just numb the pain, I guess. I don't know what else they thought it could do. And then when I looked on CNN, first white man, I guess you could say, that discovered it was Columbus when he came over. And the Native Americans traded it with him as he brought over goods to trade with him. And he took it back to Europe and Asia and all over. And that exported to the rest of the world. And then in 1571, a Spanish doctor named Nicolas Morades wrote a book about medicinal plants now that we had discovered the New World. And he listed tobacco as a medical plant, and he said that it could cure up to 36 different health problems, which I thought was quite interesting because I've never seen any of that in any health codes today, but all right. And then, according to an archive on tobaccohistory.org, in 1612, the very first crop for cash of tobacco was in Jamestown, Pennsylvania. No, not Pennsylvania. Yeah, it is. Jamestown, Pennsylvania. And it was grown by John Rolfe, and that was in the first settlement over there, and that's the very first cash for crop ever grown in tobacco. And that was bad of a habit, as tobacco may be. It actually did a lot of good for America because it helped finance the entire American Revolution pretty much. Because many of our first presidents, including our very first one, George Washington, grew that, and that's what they used to help pay for all the guns, ammunition, and all that they could supply for our armies. So by the 1800s, many people had begun using small amounts of it as they had bought it throughout the war to help support the cause and such. And they had begun using it in either cigars or cigarettes that they hand-rolled themselves, or they either used a pipe or chewed it. And this ushered in the commercial age of the product. And basically who started off the commercial age was Washington Duke, and he had a little 300-acre ranch in Raleigh, North Carolina. And he made the first commercial cigarettes, which he then sold to all the soldiers coming out of the Civil War in 1865, and that was a fire that kind of set off the commercial aspect rolling the ball. And then in 1881, James Bonsack made the first machine capable of rolling them, and they made up to 120,000 cigarettes a day, which he made with one machine, which he then grew to make more and more machines over the days. And then he and James Buck Duke, son of Washington Duke, started a business together, and they built a factory in North Carolina where they were from. And they were selling cigarettes. And in the first year alone, they made $1 million, and then in 5 years, they more than doubled that by making 5 billion cigarettes. And 5 years later, and that was back in 1887. So it grew really fast, and the industry was really booming back then because we had no government to kind of stop it. We didn't care about it back then. We were more worried about everything else going on in the world. And then came the big companies. The American Tobacco Company, which first held power as the biggest company before the 1900s because there was no one really else that thought about it yet because it wasn't really a market that people had to examine. And this was headed up by the Duke duo of Washington and James, father and son. And they kind of had the corner marketed because no one else had gotten in on this. And the turn of the century changed things because as the 1900s rolled around, many other people saw this and jumped in on it. And so the power shift changed, and it was no longer just the Duke duo sitting up on top. And things began to change. And it became so popular that even a communal snuff box was put in every single congressman's office so they could have their own cigarettes and snuff or wherever else they wanted throughout their entire term of office. This practice ended in 1935, though. And now, as we skip along, we're going to go up to some of the world health things that came into play that turned out on this. In the 80s, the tar wars, where the companies started to lower the tar and the nicotine amounts to keep customers buying them because health had started to knock down on them, saying that you need to stop this or you're not going to sell anymore, or we're not going to allow it. And there was made over 100 different types of cigarettes in just those 4 years alone during the tar wars, because they were trying to find something that would work that they could still sell and still be legal to sell. Smoking got banned on airplanes under 6 hours. State taxes got increased, and they continue to do so as they're trying to get rid of this in the United States. However, all this still hasn't stopped the trends as people continue to use tobacco products. They might not smoke as much, but they continue to chew. And most people who chew say 75% of them say they started back in the 9th grade as the earliest they can remember. So it's still very popular among the United States population. So no matter what, it's still around. And as much as this generation has frowned upon it, it still has a cultural tie to America, as you could say. It helped fund our revolution. It provided thousands of jobs when the industrial age was booming in America, and it's now and it also is contributing to Congress wasting their time fighting over it nowadays because they can find nothing else better to do with their time to raise taxes. And so, all in all, no matter what the public's opinion of it is, it's been around for centuries and will always continue to do so. Thank you.